Hey everybody, it's Ron and welcome back to Conan Book Club. I'm still going through this edition called The Coming of Conan the Cimmerian, and today I'm going to be talking about a story called The Scarlet Citadel. And I know last time I said that The Tower of the Elephant was my favorite story so far in this collection, but I think this story surpassed it because this was definitely the most epic tale about Conan that I've read thus far, and I enjoyed every second of it. Now, this story is different than most that came before it because it's much longer, and although I was enjoying the really short and to the point stories, this one was great because it took its time setting up all the different players, and it makes the finale so impactful. But okay, let's start at the beginning. This is another very simple premise. It takes place in the King Conan era where he's the king of Aquilonia, and it starts very similarly to the Frost Giant's Daughter where it just drops you in at the end of a big battle. But this time Conan is caught, and you find out that this whole thing started because a guy named Amalris and who's the other guy? Strabanus. Both of these men trick Conan into coming to Amalris's aid so they can take him out, and they are successful. Strabanus is fine with just killing Conan on the spot, but he has an evil sorcerer named Sotha with him who wants Conan alive, and I thought he was the coolest villain in this story by far, and you can tell he kind of calls the shots more than Amalris and Strabanus, and he's also the one who basically paralyzes Conan with his magic poisons. And this is cool because when he uses this stuff, he explains where he got it from. And they're all cool callbacks to previous stories that keeps the lore involved. He says he found some of the poisons in Stygia, which is a place referenced in other Conan tales. So again, this makes the world that much more rich and interesting, and there are throwaway sections of dialogue, but I love that stuff. So much happens in this story, but the reason this is so epic is because Conan gets caught and thrown into Sotha's dungeon, which is probably the scariest and most disturbing sections because it's run by a eunuch named Shukale, which reminds me a little of the manga Berserk in the Golden Age arc. There's this really creepy guy who tortures this character called Griffith, and that's what I pictured in my head with this Shukale character. So right away it sets this ominous scene, and this is also the first story where Conan doesn't feel completely invulnerable, which really ramps up the tension because there are creatures in the dungeon that frighten even a barbarian like Conan. And I thought it was funny that there's a generic serpent down there and he's not even scared of it compared to the more Lovecraftian creatures he comes into contact with. This is all in the middle of the story, and this felt like it could have been a standalone story in itself, but it's just a tiny section of this epic. But it takes a turn when Conan finds a huge plant creature latched onto a man who's completely taken over by it, both physically and mentally. And this also reminded me of something that Poison Ivy would do in Batman. And it's really horrifying the way Robert E. Howard writes this whole section of the book. But when Conan cuts down some of the plants and rescues the man, he finds out it's Sotha's rival who was left there to be tortured forever, and he helps Conan escape. The great thing about the escape is you think Conan would thank the man and ride off on horseback, but this Peleus guy who saves him is like a good guy sorcerer, so he summons this huge bat-like creature to fly Conan back to Aquilonia to fight off the invasion led by Amalris and Strabanus. And this is where it kicks off into full classic Conan mode, because as soon as he gets there, he just wipes the floor with both of them and their armies. And it's a great little revenge moment. The most interesting thing is when Conan is chasing after Sotha on horseback, he ends up chopping his head off. but an eagle grabs his head, and I think the eagle even takes over Sotha's voice, and his body headlessly flees the scene, which leaves Conan awestruck. And I like this because we got the satisfaction of Conan winning the day, and we also get Sotha getting away and using his sorcery, and this seems like a setup for him to be a recurring villain for Conan, but that could go either way because I know Conan stories are usually isolated one-off stories, but that would be pretty cool. So yeah, this was another really strong Conan story, and as of now, I'd say this is my favorite, with the Tower of the Elephant coming in as a close second. Let me know what you guys thought of this story if you've read it, and please be sure to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this content. See you next time, and thanks for watching. Hey everyone, it's Ron here with a quick announcement. When I started this channel, I was reading and reviewing the Dune books and other sci-fi related material, and most of you might not know that I'm also a musician. So when I was reading these sci-fi books, I started to get inspired and decided to make my own soundtrack to use for my videos, and now I'm excited to tell you all about the first volume in the Ron Reviews original soundtrack collection. This album includes the first 17 tracks featured on my channel, and it's available now exclusively on Bandcamp. Be sure to check the description of this video for the link to the album. Thanks so much for the support so far. I know I'm just starting out, but I hope you're having as much fun as I am. So check out the original soundtrack Volume 1 on Bandcamp. This music is great if you want something moody and atmospheric to listen to while you're reading some science fiction. I think you're going to love it. Thanks.